Alright, I had an error with my camera today, and so I'm going to keep moving with what I've already produced, and we'll just go through this again together. I added a little color today just to help clarify which angles I'm talking about for those of you that are having trouble still reading some of these angle measurements by their letters. So we are given that angle TAP, which I've colored red here, is 21 degrees. And angle MAC is 8x minus 11 degrees. And my blue angle and my red angle are vertical angles because they're opposite each other. Since they're vertical angles, I know they have to be equal to each other. So I'm going to say that they're equal to each other. 21 is equal to 8x minus 11. My 21 came from here. My 8x minus 11 came from there. Now we're simply solving a two-step equation. Add 11 to both sides. So 32 equals 8x, and divide by 8. So my value of x would equal 4. My next step is to start to identify my angles. Well, I know TAP is 21, and I know MAC is 21 because they're vertical angles. But now I need to find MAT and PAC. Well, my green angle here and my red angle here, they both form a straight line, and we already know that a straight line is 180 degrees. So my 21 plus an unknown has got to add up to 180. Subtract 21 from both sides, and I get 159 as a measure for my green angle. And since purple is vertical to green, it will also have 159 degrees. So my solutions would be 4, 159, 159, 21, and 21. All right. Looking at number 3 also, we have two angles, and their measure adds up to 160 degrees. Since it's 160, and we know 160 is not the same thing as 180, so they can't be supplementary. 160 is not the same thing as 90, so they can't be complementary. So these angles simply add up to the given value, 160. They're just adjacent angles. That means they're side by side, and they add up to a given value. So 25x minus 40 plus 15x plus 30 will add up to 160 degrees. So we can set them equal to 160. 25 and 15 will give me 40. Negative 40 and positive 30 will give me negative 10. Add 10 to both sides, and I get 170 equals 40x. Divide both sides by 40, and I get an x value of 4.25. Now with the 4.25, I can plug that into either one of my expressions. So 25 times 4.25 minus 40 is going to give me an HIP angle of 66.25. Now I have one of two options at this point. I can either plug my 4.25 into the second expression, or I can subtract 66.25 from the 160. Either way, I'm going to determine that the measure angle PIT is 93.75 degrees. $93.75 and 66.25 add up to 180 degrees. Number 4 on the back says, if BHA, and if using colors is going to help you solve these problems, I would highly encourage you to get out some color pencils or markers or whatever it is and color these in so that you can keep track of what you're talking about. So if BHA is equal to 2x minus 14 and BHC, should have done that in something other than a red color since I'm using a red pen, but we'll write up here. If BHC is equal to 50 degrees, what is the value of X and what is the value of BHA? Well, I can clearly see that I have line CG. That's a straight line. And I have a right angle down here in AHG. And so if I have a right angle in AHG, that means that's 90 degrees. And that would also mean that this angle up here, AHC, would have to be 90 degrees because 90 plus 90 is 180, and a straight line has to have 180 degrees. Now that gives me a lot of information because I know that since this is a 90 degree angle, 90 degrees minus the 50 from angle BHC will give me the remaining number of degrees for angle BHA. And so that will be 40 degrees. My next task is to find the measure of X, or the value for X. And there are a couple of different ways to do this. Since I know that BHA is 40 degrees, I can say 2x minus 14 is equal to 40 degrees. I could also say, if I wanted to do a little bit more work, that 2x minus 14, which is the value of BHA, plus 50, which is the value of BHC, is equal to 90 degrees, because those two angles form a right angle, which is 90 degrees. I'm going to choose this one on the left just because it's going to save me a little bit of work. So I will add 14 to both sides and get 54 equals 2x. And my x value would equal 27. You should be able to use that same process to get the rest of the problems on the back of the page figured out. Number 7. Angle ABC and MBR are vertical angles. ABC is a 28 degree angle. So I know right of the way I have vertical angles. A, B, C, and M, B, R. Let's add a little bit of color to these because they've told us A, B, C, and M, B, R are vertical angles. That means those two angles are equal to each other. It then tells me that angle ABC is 28 degrees. 28 degrees. And MBR is 14x degrees. What is the value of MBR? Well, I really don't even need x to find the value of MBR because I know it's a vertical angle. It's going to be 28 degrees. But since some of the other problems work in this same fashion and force us to find the value of x, we're going to go ahead and do it. So divided by 14, x is equal to 2. So since the measure of angle MBR is 14x and we know that x is 2, we plug that 2 into the x. 14 times 2 is 28, and we know MBR is 28 degrees. Apply the same process to the following two problems, and you should be able to complete your homework with relative ease. Have a good evening.